Hey guys, Andrew here, today with a slightly different DMP video. This video has been a long time in the making, finally going through what I think are the top 5 cards in the TCG that are still being played to this day in DMP. Starting off at number 5, we have Illusionary Merfolk. Okay, although I did mention that this was going to be cards that are still being played to this day, I just had to make an exception for our beloved Gelfish Illusionary Merfolk. What used to be Jason's favorite card until a certain archetype came along, Illusionary Merfolk was one of those cards that just seemed to be on the brink of being playable back in the TCG. A lot of decks tried playing it, I know we certainly did, in decks like Rub Control, Mono Water decks, basically any decks that could abuse Emerald and Creel. Fortunately, it just didn't quite work out since neither Coral or Emerald curved into Illusionary Merfolk. The concept just wasn't good enough. Lo and behold, our prayers were finally answered in DMP with Pickleton, a 4-mana Alcoholcus that is also Cyberlord. Suddenly, all the Illusionary Merfolks came out in play. I remember one of the most dominant decks for the first few metas was the classic Waterfire beatdown deck that took me all the way to top 10. Although Illusionary Merfolk hasn't been too relevant recently, it will always hold a special place in our hearts. Next up is Holy Ore, a key staple in light decks in TCG, or scratch that, Holy Ore was good as a 4 of even by itself. Similar in DMP, Holy Ore would often be splashed into decks regardless if it was an aggro deck, mid-range deck, or even control deck. The fact that it can grant you an extra turn was sometimes all you needed to swing the game back in your favor. I will always stand by the fact that if DMP didn't release a literal power creep version of Holy Ore in DNA Spark, the good old Holy Ore would still see play to this day. The number 3 spot goes to an interesting pick, Wily Carpenter / Emergency Typhoon, or rather the ability to draw cards and discard cards. These two cards were often seen as quite gimmicks in the TCG, with Wily Carpenter barely seeing any play at all, and Emergency Typhoon only in gimmicks such as in combination with T-Dad. However, in DMP, these two cards, or I guess every subsequent retrain of these cards, stood the test of time, with the abundance of decks that utilize the graveyard as a resource. Quite early on, you had the whole Death Phoenix and Zero Phoenix decks that could summon itself if it was in the graveyard, and also more recently a popular deck has popped up that centers around getting as many creatures or cards into the graveyard as possible to discount cards such as Millionaire and the 5000th GT, or even MRC. Looks like this concept is here to stay. Coming in at number 2 is perhaps one of the most controversial cards in the TCG, Soul Swap. Soul Swap was, to say the least, a polarizing card. Some love the card for enabling all sorts of fun and weird strategies, but others find it to be one of the most broken cards that we have in the TCG. And honestly, it's probably both of those things. Now, what's surprising with Soul Swap was they changed the cost of the card from 3 mana all the way to 7 mana, yet it's still being played. Insert here your favorite Ryusei hold decks, but even beyond that, the versatility of Soul Swap is what really sells the card. With Soul Swap, you can get away with playing lower copies of certain cards, and also not be afraid to charge some of your more valuable cards early on. But the main reason why it's so prevalent, even in current day DMP, is that mana isn't really an issue. Which leads to our final card, Fairy Life. Fairy Life takes the number 1 spot. Perhaps even more impactful in DMP than it was back in the TCG. Just look at all those Fairy Life retrains. You can almost even make a whole deck with just Fairy Life if you wanted. Fairy Life is the sole reason why we play Nature, and combined with the fact that it's so much easier to generate card advantage in DMP as long as you have the mana, it's no wonder that Fairy Life sees so much play. It looks like Fairy Life will stay evergreen for formats to come, and I for one am all for it. And that ends our top 5 lists for today. If you would like to see more of these, please do let us know in the comments below. Maybe we could cover the top 5 cards that were good in the TCG but failed to translate in DMP. As always, stay safe and we'll see you guys next time.